guys, and welcome back to another episode of Rebuilding Wimbledon, the analysis days. That feels like a side series what we're running right now, but here we are on the analysis screen. So if you are enjoying this, of course, drop a like on the video. I do intend to keep doing them regardless. So yeah, we actually got £37 million in the bank in terms of transfers, but also a shitload of, we got like 800 grand in wage budget. We've got to be careful with that though, because of course with the way that the budgeting and stuff works. So we've got a fair bit of money to play with this summer, so we can sort of see where we need to strengthen, but it's going to be a much more difficult summer because I don't want to bring in players in positions where we've already got someone that's really, really improving, because it's just a stupid idea and a waste of money. We need to bring in players in areas that are not the strongest right now, and the only area I'm really seeing is potentially a backup right back that can then overtake a really solid one, and maybe another striker. It just depends on how I'm happy with Peter. We'll see what the stats are like. So possession-wise, we are dominating it. More than 2% more possession than anybody else in the entire league, which is superb. Most penalties, 8, and we scored 6 of them as well. But Everton scored 7 out of 7, which is quite something, to be honest. So headers won, we are right down at the very bottom, interestingly, on headers won, which is very, very surprising. We managed to take a look at our head ratio of some of our defenders before we take a look at that. See how we are on the old ratio. See, this is the thing. We might have not won as many headers, but we're also the 4th best at winning them. Which is interesting. It means that teams are not playing the ball in the air very much with us, which is, I guess that's why we'll have to see. With the second most yellow cards of the league, but still Chelsea miles clear of anyone else by miles. We've had 3 red cards in the league this year, which is a step up from last year where we were much, much better in that sense, but there you go. Form is not really an important one right about now because that's just the end of the season. Cross completion, we've slipped down to 8th, but it's still 15%. I'd like to see that be a little bit higher, but we can talk about that when we actually get to the players. Crosses completed, we're nice and high up in 5th place, though Arsenal, Chelsea, City, and interestingly Newcastle are above us. Goals from corners though, 10 goals we've scored directly from corners. That to me is a big sign. Goals from direct free kicks, we've scored 3. We've scored the most direct free kicks in the league, and all 3 of those came in the early stages. It really did taper off after that. Shocker. Goals from indirect free kicks, we actually got 7 of those as well, which is interesting. And Chelsea got 7 too, and wow, Fulham and Sunderland got none at all. Pass completion ratio though is now the joint best in the league, and that says something to me. It says we're really starting to improve our sort of possession football. Passes completed, a few less than Man United, but that's fine. Shots on target ratio is joint top with Arsenal. That says a lot to me as well. That's looking good. Most shots on target by nearly 50 shots. We've had more shots on target than anyone else. That is superb. That really does say a lot. Fouls against, we always draw a lot of fouls, and not quite as many as Man United, but still a hell of a lot. Dribbles per game, we're not far off of that as well, and that's pretty much just Salvi. I think Salvi for a full year, and he probably does win that for us. Defensively, Arsenal only conceded 24 times, but we only conceded 29, which is 13 better than the nearest side above us. We're in that top 4 group, and next year I want to see if we can avoid that little poor run we had and really take it. Conceded from corners, only once did we concede a goal from a corner. It's a glorious day to be alive. Conceded from direct free kicks, unfortunately we conceded the 1, but that's not too bad, considering the amount that there are. Indirect free kicks, however, 4, which isn't as bad as it looked, to be honest, compared to the likes of Swansea and Chelsea, so not too bad. Clean sheets, we had 22, which is beautiful and exactly what I wanted. Well, Middlesbrough only got 3. Fouls made, interestingly, not the most. Chelsea were the kings of that one this year, but we actually came 3rd this year, which is better. Tackles 1, well, where are we on tackles 1? We're sort of mid-table there, but I'm more interested in the ratio, which is number 2, which is much more like it. We're not having to win as many tackles because we're doing more from an offensive point of view. Penalties conceded, we conceded 4, which is still not as many as some of the others, but that was all in the first sort of 2 episodes of the season as well. We really did stop it after that. It might just be because of the way we were playing. It has to be, really. Average attendance by capacity, obviously our stadium is now a capacity 27,000, which is the most it can be. We're not allowed to expand it anymore, which is a pain, so we'd have to build another new stadium in order to actually increase the capacity, which is probably something I won't look into in this save because it will take too long anyway. We have 13 sellouts, which is more than anyone else by miles. We can see on this one here. Lowest attendance is Swansea, interestingly. Wow, we actually had the 5th lowest, which is not too bad. Net transfer spend, obviously we're right up there with 67 million, but we're having to improve ourselves. That's just how it is. Looking down at the bottom, Chelsea actually not lost money, they saved money. Salary per annum, now we're up to 8th place, 87 million per annum. Starting to catch up, but remember, we've just won the league with an £87 million wage budget. That's the same as the likes of, well, less than Southampton, way less than Spurs, Liverpool, Man United, and, well, I mean, that's 3 times less than what Manchester City are using, and we just won the league with that, so it can be done. Wow, look at Cardiff, 33 million. Remember when that was us, guys? Right, let's take a look at player stats now. Games won, Roman Masek and Gafrascoli. Masek has been a monster for us. 28, he played in every single league win that we had this season, which is superb to see, it really is. Yellow cards, Brian Gomez should be right up there as well, with 13 yellow cards. So where did he get? Oh, must have been from cup games. 15 in the league, though, for Christian Mesa. And Callum Patterson got a shitload for Sunderland as well. Farmer was up there too, but it's not too bad. Red cards wise, I don't think anyone can have multiple red cards for us. Nope, we're actually all good on that one, which is lovely. Player of the Match awards, Fabio and Baltam both got 8, but Masek also got 6, and Salvi got 5. It's nice to have them all up there. Distance covered, I don't think we'll have anyone on there because of the way we play, but that's fine. Average rating, look at this. Masek's in there, Salvi, Fabio's 5th, Baltam's 6th. Farmer is 8th, Gomez is joint 12th. We've got so many players in this top list, and that is beautiful to see. I do want to see someone win it, though, at some point. That would be ideal. Attacking, well, I mean, he was only 1 more goal than Fabio, but he did play less games, to be fair to him, so he looks like an incredibly good player. Minutes per goal, Fabio slips down a little bit more on that one, but it's still not bad. Look at that, Peter actually isn't too bad. You know, he only scored, 12 goals, but... 15th best in the league is still not bad. There's still something to come from it, in my sense. Shots on target ratio, Baltam has actually got a very good shooting now, which I'm starting to enjoy tremendously. Salvi's up there too. Fabio's down at 52%, but still above 50. And Peter's actually not bad there when he gets those chances. We just need him to take them a little bit more. Team goals, Chelsea dominated on that one. But that's understandable. Gavraskoli's right up there with 89, and Masek 87. Still not bad. Penalties... Gavraskoli, well, Fabio actually took a few of them as well. No, Gavraskoli doesn't take penalties, was he? He scored 4 out of 5, which is not too bad. But Lewis Baker for Everton is superb at that. Assist-wise, Salvi all the way. Just colossus. Outscoring Bellerin on assists, and better crosses, and better pass completion, and more key passes in less appearances. He's a better player, and plus he's not even in the same position, so it doesn't really matter. Key passes, Palista's up there, but look at that. Baltam and Masek both... dominating on that for us as well, with Salvi not too bad either, Fabio doing a decent job as surprising to see no Peter, but he's probably not played enough. Pass completion overall, Mohamed Achabar 85% pass completion, and Farmer 84 is very, very good. Manquillo as well, very nice to see, but notice that Achabar's probably played there too, so that's not too bad. Cross completion, Peter 25%, though he rarely plays out there. Baltam, despite having virtually no crossing ability, he's got 21% cross completion. This guy, seriously, guys, this guy, what is his crossing now? 12. It's really improving, and I just think that he's just going to get better and better. He's still only 20, guys. 20! So yeah, pleased with that. Dribbles per game. Salvi's got to be on there somewhere. He's the number 3, because Tagiu and Bellerin, of course, are dominating that one as well. Are there any more? Of course there are. Team conceded. Brendan Galloway, it's mostly Arsenal players, but Fabio's actually only been on the pitch for 19 goals conceded overall, so shows that the likes of Achabar actually have a real effect on us as well. Tackles per game, Jay Da Silva of Stoke City wins... Jesus, look at the amount of tackles he's won. That is outrageousness. And we've actually got no one up there apart from Farmer on 6.2, but we have had to do less of that, of course. Mistakes leading to goals. In theory, I'd like to think we don't have anyone on here, thank goodness. Mistakes overall, Gomez will be on there. Wow, look at that, 97 mistakes from Gavraskoli. But then again... that's the free kick thing, isn't it? Those all count as mistakes, I suppose. But it's nice to see that Brian Gomez isn't on there. Key tackles, Phil Jones. Joseph Zisser's made 28, so that's not too bad. Gomez has fallen off on that one as well. Key headers. Gomez is playing as a fullback this year, mostly, so that might explain it, though. We'll take a little look at that in a sec, of course. Interceptions. Joseph Zisser. No Gomez. Oh, there's Gomez. There he is. 390. He got 700 odd last year, I think, so that's interesting. Headers 1 ratio. Gomez is still up there, though. 88% header 1 ratio. I'd like to see Zisser on here as well, really. But we'll take a look at that in a second, of course. Goalkeeping. Overall number conceded, Gavraskoli is 4th, but he's still done a superb job and won the clean sheet one. Saves held. Wow, he really has fallen there. That's a lot, actually. Saves held 42, and saves parried 25. Then again, that shows you how little he's had to do in terms of saves. But anyway, we'll take a little look at the player stats right now, individual ones, starting with the goalkeepers. Right then, guys, it is Martin Gavraskoli, so we'll just quickly take off any that don't really apply to us. So that's those. Yeah, everything else is all applying to us. So, average rating of 7.05, which is not bad for a goalkeeper in this game, to be honest. Decent pass completion. Obviously got some goals as well. We've got 3 in the league. Got 4 assists as well, which is pretty freaking solid, you've got to admit. No yellow cards or anything. Got some man of the match awards as well, which is always nice. 97 mistakes, though. It has to be because of the goalkeeping free kick situation, so we'll kind of ignore that. 28 clean sheets in 55 games is superb. 73% shot save ratio is also very, very nice. Maybe we could do it a little bit higher, but he's not really saved a lot. He's not really had to do a lot with his actual shots. What's that? Saves tipped 12, 25. Look at this. He's barely made any saves at all. That's incredible. In the Premier League this year, he's only really made, like, what's that? 67, 79 saves in the entire season. That's incredible. I mean, it's interesting that he's still holding way more than his parrying, which is great. passes completed. I don't really know what more we can say about Martin Gafrascoli because he is just a colossus of a goalkeeper and he will be staying with us forever. So yeah, we'll just move straight on to defenders. We'll look at the centre-backs first because that's an area of concern for me. So when it comes to centre-backs, we're really looking at Zissa, Mohar and Bony and Ballester because Gomez, as far as I'm aware, he's rarely played there this year. He played 9 times and played okay there, but for the most part, he played as a left-back. So we're going to look at him as a left-back for today. Although we can still look at his headers 1 if you want. So tackles 1 ratio, 90%. Joseph Zissa. That, to me, is what I'm looking for. That is outrageously good from the lad, and that's more like it from us. And Bonny, 88% when he has played. It means that I feel like there's a lot to come from him. Mohar, 85 is still very good. Gomez has fallen to 83, but even Balesta's still got 83 as well. But Zissa and Bonny look like they could potentially be a really good partnership with that tackling ability. Mistakes leading to goals. Now, you'll notice Mohar has 5, and that to me makes me think he's an absolute liability in this team, and I can sort of see that maybe moving him on in the summer might not be such a bad idea because he just doesn't seem to have that composure and concentration, and it's costing us. And I think sorting that out could make us a much, much stronger team. When you notice that Ballester, okay, yeah, obviously he didn't play as much, but he still made 24 appearances for someone off the bench, not a single mistake leading to a goal, and Joseph Zissa played 50 times to Mohar's 44 rather, and only made 2 mistakes leading to goals the entire season. So that says a lot for me as well. Cross completion is irrelevant. Key tackles, what are we doing for key tackles? Zissa again, 40 compared to Mohar's 26. Balesta's made 8 so far. Again, it's difficult to really count Ballester in this one because he's not played enough for me to really be able to consider him. But what you would notice is that, of course, Christian Bonny has made 14 in a lot less games than Mohar has played. So, again, makes me think that perhaps Bonny's a better player to be bringing into that position at some point. Pass completion. Achibar and Gomez, of course, are high. Zissa and Bonny, 76. Mohar was 76 as well. Balesta's slightly lower. But again, looking over a full season, that might be slightly different. Number of tackles completed per... not completed. Yeah, it is actually. Zissa on 4.93. Bonny just behind that, and again you'll see Mohar is much, much lower, which to me suggests he might be one to move on in the summer, in fact, and try to just cut our losses on him and move him on for some big money if we can, because the fact is we've paid a lot of money for the guy, yes we have, but he's still worth £25 million, and I think it's this composure stat that's costing him. Maybe his vision as well, I'm not entirely sure, but it does seem that that's a problem for him, and I think if we can move him on in the summer, it might not be such a bad idea to do so, because I think that Bonny is actually a very, very good player. When you look at what he's done, he's 2% less on the tackling than Zissa, but still way better than Mohar. He's winning more tackles per games. He's passing about the same. And he's winning more key tackles probably as a ratio. So I think he might be the sort of player that could really rise next season if we were to let him. And maybe that's an idea for us. Dribbles per game, Zissa again, better than Bonny. And Mohar, once again, dominating down here on the bottom side of things, which is hella noticeable. Bonny's average rating is better, Zissa's is even better than that, but Balesta's is very low. So maybe more game time and chances will give him an opportunity to do that. Games won with them in the team. Interesting that Mohar's actually won more games when he was in the team, but I'm not sure if I can really count that today, because Bonny often plays in games where we've rotated the side, which means there's a weaker squad in general, so I can't really be counting that one as much. Zissa's played more games, but it is interesting that Mohar's won a lot of games, so it might be worth looking at. Headers 1 ratio, Ballester, 90%. Better. Much, much better. You notice that Zissa only 75% headers 1. Bonny is sort of the middle ground at the moment with 80%. He's really solid across the board, actually. And most of his stats are very, very good. But Leicester, look at that. Ballester, 90%. I think a sort of a partnership of Zissa and either Ballester and Bonny might be a good approach for us next season. And maybe we don't need to sign anyone. It's just interesting to see where it's going. Key headers. Brian Gomez, interestingly, still won more key headers despite mostly playing as a left-back. Zissa with 87 key headers won, which is very interesting, actually. Winning more key headers, but less headers overall, or as a percentage, than Mohar. But maybe he just goes for more headers, whereas Mohar's just shying out of the tackles entirely. Key passes, obviously, Achibar and Gomez are flying on that one. Bonny's made a few key passes too. He's obviously got a bit of an eye for a pass, but then Mohar and Zissa are the same on that one. Mistakes, Zissa's made a few more than Mohar, but Mohar seems to make really bad mistakes, and that's kind of an issue for me, if you think about it. Passes completed per 90 minutes, not really that bothered about that one for this one. Interceptions, Zissa again, 578. Mohar right down. He's made a lot less interceptions as well. Zissa just seems to have this great anticipation that he can use as well. Headers 1 per 90 minutes. Ballester, nearly 9. And again, Zissa wins a few more than Mohar on that one. So that's interesting. But again, Bonnie dominating in that one as well. He's wanted by a few clubs too, and I bet they're big sides too. Manchester City, hell no. Hands the fuck off. And shots on target is not really that important. So, from what I can ascertain here, I'm actually quite happy with them, but I think moving Mohar on and maybe bringing through another one might not be such a bad idea, and really concentrating on those mental stats, because I think we need that now almost more than some of the physical ones. So yeah, that's our centre-backs. Let's take a look at the full-backs now. Right, fullbacks. So mistakes leading to goals is the first thing. So we're looking at Gomez here, perhaps a little bit less the likes of Granger, but Makulo, Manquillo, Achabar, and even Botso, really, we can include in this, just so we can sort of see. So mistakes leading to goals, firstly. Gomez, Makula, and Achabar have made one each. But look at the amount of games that Makula's played to actually have made one of those, whereas Achabar and Gomez, you could sort of forgive them for maybe one a season, really. That's pretty damn good. And Manquillo, 34 games, well, 39 rather, not a single mistake leading to a goal. He's got the mental stats of a lion, whatever the hell that means. So, tackles one ratio. Granger, not too bad. But Gomez and Manquillo, 83%, Achabar 80%, but look at that, Makulo, only 71% tackles won, and that's a worry for me. He's a very attacking fullback, just like Manquillo is, but Manquillo has the defensive stats to back it up, whereas Makula seems to play a bit like Marcelo, except without the defensive capabilities of him. So yeah, I'm worried about Makulo in the summer. Perhaps that might be another area where we could look at maybe move him straight on and try and find another one that's got a bit better defensive stats, since we get a lot of that stuff going forward anyway from other areas. And again, Botso is a similar sort of situation with him. Now, cross completion though, Botso does complete a lot of crosses. So does Manquillo though. Gomez only 10 and Makula only 11. For a player that's supposed to be very good for attacking play and not that great defensively, 11% is not high enough. We need more sort of 15, 16%. That's the kind of levels I'm looking at. But Gomez, again, because he can play centre-back as well, his stats are sort of spread across, so I don't expect huge numbers from him on the old crosses, and of course, because he's playing a left-back, that might explain why. Then again, Baltam's been banging them in for us in that position, but mostly coming in from the right. Key tackles, Gomez is just extinguishing people, and again, Makula only the one. I think what I'm already kind of getting from this is that Manquillo is still an absolute monster, and I see no reason why he can't do it again next year, but I do want to bring in a backup for him potentially. I am looking at this guy called Viotti from Uruguay, but we're still not entirely sure if the deal's actually been done yet, because I've had lots of stalling and lots of crap like that. So we'll sort of see over the summer if we can bring him in, but I don't think he'd join until next year anyway. So we might need to look for a more permanent solution closer to home a little bit. So pass completion, Achabar, Manquillo, and Gomez all above 80. Makula at least 79. Everyone's done well on pass completion. I'd like them all above 80, but the fact is 79 is certainly not too shabby on that one either. As for tackles one per game, Gomez again up there with Manquillo. Makula's done okay, but he's just not very good at actually winning them as a percentage, which is interesting. Whereas Botso's just a bit lower down and couldn't win a raffle at this point. Average ratings, I mean, you can see Gomez, Achabar, Manquillo dominating that one. Makula just didn't ever really get much for the old average ratings part. Did get one assist this year. That was his only real contribution to the team as well. Games won, I mean, you can see that 58% when he played, whereas Gomez 73%, Achabar 69%, Manquillo a little bit lower, which is interesting, but he did play a few more games, I believe. No, he actually didn't, which is interesting, and it might indicate that perhaps we do need to sort of look down that right-hand side and see if we can find someone new. Headers one, Brian Gomez dominates that one by miles, and Manquillo obviously is not the best in the air, but you wouldn't expect that so much from a fullback. Gomez is just useful to have that option, really, hence the number of key headers that he's won whilst playing as a left-back this year is pretty astonishing. Key passes, Manquillo, though, is up there too, but of course Achabar played as a defensive midfielder at times, so that's not always a fair explanation with him. Mistakes overall, Gomez of course has made a few less than usual though. I feel like he's getting better at that. Maybe that's because he's playing as a left back now. Achabar's made a few of course, Manquillo's made some as well. Passes completed per 90 minutes. Achabar makes more because he's played 9 times in defensive midfield as well, so not entirely fair there. Interceptions, look at the amount of interceptions Gomez makes, even playing as a left back. He just gets in there and wins that ball. 7.82 headers won per game. He's so good in the air. Like, he's got such great technical stats as well for like, okay, his crossing's a little bit low, but I mean, I just really like this guy. Look at the strength, the stamina. Argues with officials is something we really do need to try and get him off of if we can. And also the stays back at all times PPM is probably why he doesn't create as many assists. I don't think he's only got 2 in the league this year, so that might be something to look for as well. But we'll take that into account when we look at the summer training. And shots on target is irrelevant. So from fullbacks, I might move Makula on as well and try and find someone else in there and just do a bit of wheeling and dealing in the summer, move some players out that just didn't settle, and maybe look for a right-back replacement for Javi Manquillo that could slowly overtake him this year. That's my theory anyway, since my system seems to prefer Achabar anyway, and you can almost sort of understand why a little bit in certain areas, but we'll need to see how that develops, because we can't afford to be using him there as a permanent solution. So, now on to the centre mids and defensive mids and all that jazz. Right then. This is an interesting one. So we're looking at kind of them all as a kind of cross section here. So mistakes leading to goals, firstly, should only be Farmer and Achibar. One each is not too bad, to be honest. I'm pretty solid and happy with that. Tackles 1 ratio, Diallo's done well when he's played, and Masek is up there. Farmer has slipped a little bit to 79. I remember when he first started in this team, he was winning 86% of his tackles, so that's something to maybe look at. But he's still fantastic, and it's good to have those players winning as many as they are, frankly. Fabio, we don't expect him to do anything. Kenneth, very low though. That's very, very low. Cross completion is irrelevant for the middle of the table, middle of the park teams. Achibar does love a good key tackle and has won a lot more of those than Sam Farmer, but again, possibly because of his playing at fullback situation, so we can kind of discount that one for now. Goals, Fabio's got 34, which is just astonishing. Baltam has 20, but again, Baltam never really played this, so we can kind of ignore that one as well. Pass completion, Diallo 86, Achibar 84, Farmer 83, Ramsler 82, Masek 82, Kenneth 80, which is a nice little thing to see that he's got decent pass completion when he does play there, which means he's linking up the play quite nicely. He did get 1 assist overall. His goal scoring sort of tailed off, but that was probably caused by his injury. And we actually look at Kenneth. You know, he's still like a 2.5-star player, and I think there's a lot more to come from him next year, and I can't wait to see what he's capable of. I really can't. Dribbles per game from the middle is not really that important, but look at that, 4.9 from a centre mid of Roman Masek, and you can sort of see where that really works. He can just ghost past people at will, and it is glorious to watch. It really, really is. Average rating, Masek dominates that one as well. Games won, Diallo, Masek, nicely up there. Ramsler, again, he would have been playing in slightly weaker sides, so that would explain that one. But Farmer's is quite low. He's played a lot of games, but then Fabio's won a lot more games, so that's interesting. Achibar's actually won more games than Farmer too. I do wonder about Sammy Farmer, but maybe there's a PPM that's causing problems. I'm not entirely sure, actually. I don't know. Maybe it's just one of those things. We'll have to sort of see. Headers won. Farmer's obviously going to be low on that one, because he's just not the tallest. Oh, Kenny VDH is very, very low, whereas Fabio's up there. But again, centre mids is not. As long as they're above 50, I'm happy. And Kenneth VDH is not really supposed to be playing there anyway. But maybe that's an area where he could work on. I don't think he's that great in the air. 5 jumping reach and 4 heading. No, he's very, very poor in the air, which is probably an area where, you know, Fabio really does start to dominate when he plays in the shadow striker role. An area that maybe VDH is never going to be able to get that good in. But that's fine. Key headers. Fabio, 74, lovely stuff, and obviously some of those would have been headers on goal. Key passes overall, Masek 274. I'm just ignoring Baltam for the sake of it for now. And yeah, Kenneth VDH got a decent amount actually in a very short space of time, to be honest. Played less than half the games of Achibar, but look at that, 118 key passes. Good stuff. Passes completed per game. Interestingly, not that many though, so maybe it's not as many as we thought. But Masek, nearly 60. Superb. Interceptions, Farmer dominates that. Achibar not too far in behind, and Masek doing his work not too badly as well. As for headers won, Fabio doing his job. Farmer, again, pretty low on that. But the fact is, I'm completely happy with the centre of our midfield, and you know, we've got 2 players that we can play a defensive midfield with, Farmer and Achibar. In the middle we've got Masek. We can also play Diallo or Ramsler or even Achibar in there, and then up top we've either got Fabio or VDH, and even Farmer can play in there. We've got enough players to cover all of those roles, and I'm perfectly happy with all of them, and I don't think I need to do any kind of upgrades in that midfield at all. They've done so much for us this year, and I'm perfectly happy with it. So let's move on to the wingers now. Right, so wingers. We're basically looking at Isler, Everton, Baltam and Salvi. Ramsler did play there a couple of times, but not enough for me to consider this an important thing. Isler did actually make a mistake leading to a goal, which was a little bit worrying. Played a lot less games than obviously the likes of Baltam and Salvi, who are the sort of the main men we're looking at today. But tackles won, Ramsler not too bad. But look at that, Baltam and Salvi, 67 and 65% tackles won, which dominates the likes of Isler and Everton. Because the fact is, Baltam and Salvi are great going forward, but they're also better at getting back and helping out defensively. So that's why I really, really like those two as a partnership on the wings. Cross completion overall, Baltam with 22, Salvi with 15, but Isler's not too bad and Everton's not super bad, but he just doesn't have what he used to have for us, and he is wanted, and I might move him on and try and do a bit of wheeling and dealing and bring in a younger right-sided winger, like I was planning to last summer if Everton does actually want to leave. They're all wanted, and Isler's actually requested to leave, which is interesting. So if someone does come on, then we might have to get Isler out the way and maybe bring in 2 fresh players to be the backups in the summer. It could be a summer where we lose a lot of players, but also bring in a lot of players and really reshuffle the squad around a lot, just to keep people happy at this point. Key tackles, we're not really that bothered about it, but Baltam's got 2 and Isler has 1, so that's nice to see anyway. Pass completion, Everton 80, Salvi 80, 88, not 88, 78. They're all above 75, which is fine for my wingers, and closer to 80, which is actually very, very solid. Goals, Baltam was more of a goal scorer than an assister, but he did still get 7 assists, whereas Salvi got himself plenty of goals, as well as a hat load of assists, and that's just because of the way our system is so slightly imbalanced. But Baltam's really starting to reap the benefits of playing as that inside forward now. I think next year another 20 goals out of him would be delightful. Tackles per game, Baltam and Salvi again winning that one, although only just for Salvi. Baltam's slightly better at that. Dribbles per game, Salvi dominates that one with nearly 7. But, you know, the likes of Baltam, he's still not exactly far behind Everton, and Isler's not that far behind there. Salvi does certainly stand out as the best dribbler on the team. Shots on target, Isler and Baltam on that left are brilliant, whereas Salvi, still not too bad. It's above 50, but Isler... And you can sort of see why they've got the number of goals that they've got, frankly. Average rating, Salvi and Baltam dominating, but Isler and Everton have still put in solid performances when they've played. Games won, Salvi up there, Baltam up there as well. Isler and Everton again dropping down further. Headers won, Isler and Everton are the ones that are winning more headers, which is interesting, but not really that conducive to the way that we play, evidently. So I don't think that's that important for wingers. Headers, key headers though, interestingly, Baltam's won the most. So that does say something for me. Key passes, Baltam and Salvi just completely dominating, but that's what you'd expect. Mistakes, obviously dominating that one as well, but when you look at it, only 46 mistakes from Salvi in 46 appearances, whereas Isler, you feel like he'd probably made more than that in that time. Passes completed, Salvi doesn't complete that many passes, interestingly, but I guess that's because he puts in more crosses. He's just so good at the dribbling. Interceptions, Baltam and Salvi again dominating. Headers won per game is not so much important, but again, shots on target, Baltam and Salvi are up there, Everton slightly less. So the fact is, I'm happy with the wingers. Baltam and Salvi are going to be our starting wingers next year, but I'm thinking if we have to move on Everton and Isler just to keep them happy and replace them with 2 slightly younger, more high potential players, if we can find them, then that's fine. That are prepared to settle for backup roles, then that's what I might do, because they'll still get game time, but I want them to be happy in their squad roles and not constantly complaining, basically. And we'd get a lot of money for the likes of Isler and Everton, I sense. So that's another factor. So let's take a final little look at the strikers. And actually, I'll include the shadow striker in that one too. Right, so, strikers. We'll have to exclude the likes of Sam Farmer here, and Baltam, because they're just not important in this sort of situation. So, tackles won for the strikers. Fabio 64, Peter 63, Kenneth 60. It's not too bad. They're all in the sort of same wheelhouse. Mateus is slightly lower, and that's one of the areas I think if you're going to play that deep line forward role, we do need to have better tackling. But Peter's doing a decent job so far. He's keeping up with Fabio on that sense. Cross completion is irrelevant. Key tackles, again, I'm not that bothered by. Goals overall, well, Fabio's dominated that one. Peter, I do want to see more goals next year. I want to see 20 in the league and maybe like 15 assists. But that's if we decide to persistent. I think he's worth persisting with. When you look at what he's got to offer in theory, I think there's a lot to come from this guy, and I think that maybe another year where he's playing consistently, not getting so many injuries, maybe just what he needs just to get a few. He started off really well, and I think there might be an opportunity for him next year that requires us not to go out and spend all our transfer budget on one player again, and I just think that's a silly idea because we've actually got a solid striker there, to be honest. You might notice that the likes of Adam Kerr can't even hear anymore, and Colin Murphy, they're under 21 players at the moment, so they've barely played at all. I don't think Colin Murphy started one game at all. So pass completion, Van den Hooijdonk, 80, not bad. Peter, 88, Mateus, 80, but Fabio's got the lowest, but it's still above 75, which is not too bad. So all of our strikers in those positions are putting in really solid shifts. Obviously, Kenneth's slightly deeper, so you'd sort of expect him to do a bit more in that sense. Not too bad on the tackle either. In fact, he's got very good tackling for what essentially is a shadow striker most of the time. Dribbling, not too bad either. Solid, you know. Peter and Fabio both have better dribbling, but he's not far behind, and that's kind of important. Shots on target, I'd like it to be a tiny little bit higher, more in line with these two, but it's still not exactly off the pace. Mateus again, 35. I do worry about him a little bit, and I wonder if he might be cut out for this, to be honest. You can tell he has obviously got some class there waiting to come out, but he's got that shoots from distance PPM, and that might be the problem there. If we can train him off of that, we might have a better player on our hands. That might be something to look at in the summer. Is there a way to undo PPMs? Let's just check his training out. New preferred move. Can I don't know what to do here. I've done this before, but well, I've done this quite a lot, but is there a way to get rid of him? Restrict the number of long shots he takes. No. Yeah. Thank you. Like, I feel like he needs to restrict the number of long shots, because for a start, he's got 12 long shots, but he's a striker, and we need him to be getting closer before he actually takes those finishing out. Hopefully we can get him trained off that PPM, it'd be a lot better. I think that's how you do it anyway. I don't really undo PPMs a lot of the time. So, moving on, games won. Alexander Peter, interestingly, up there with Fabio on 70%, but Kenny VDH as well with 68 is still pretty solid, frankly, in this sort of team. But look at Mateus, 59. But again, he would have been playing in a slightly weaker side. Shots on target ratio, we already looked at, of course, what we're talking about. Headers won. Fabio should dominate this one by miles. Peter only 11, which is again something I would like to see a bit more of. What's he like in the air? Heading 16, jumping reach isn't great, but that's interesting. He's not super tall, I guess. Key passes. Where is he? Peter doesn't do bad with the key passes. That's what I would say. He's not too bad on that one. Passes per game, it's a little bit less than some of the others, but then that's when he's playing as a striker a lot of the time. He's the only one that's really played there consistently this season for us to have an opinion on. Mistakes, Fabio 58. Kenny does not make a lot of mistakes as well, which is nice. Peter's not too bad with that as well. He's pretty solid on the old consistency front in that sense. Interceptions, Fabio makes 109, which is very, very good. He did it against, was it PSG, I think, in that away game? Really, really good in those areas. Headers 1, Fabio is dominating, and shots on target per 90 minutes, Fabio and Van den Hooijdonk. And you can sort of see where Peter and Matthäus sort of fall away. They're not getting as many shots in either, which is surprising considering the amount that Matthäus has missed. So that's kind of where I'm looking at. I think strikers-wise, again, I'm happy with the Fabio, Peter, and VDH trio that were sort of rotating, with Matthäus as a sort of option. If another one comes up, I might bring him in, but it just depends on where I can work with the budget, because I think that from an attacking perspective, we're doing fine. I think the area where we need to keep strengthening is that defence. We've got the second best attack in the league at the moment, and it's miles clear of anyone else. And I think in Europe, it's going to come down more to us being able to keep out other teams, like we did against PSG. But we do still need to be able to finish, and I think Peter will grow into a player, and I'm prepared to give him the time to do that, rather than wasting yet more money on bringing in another striker that I don't think we actually need. I think Peter's next year, if he still fails next year, then we might have to look at it, but I think next year he's going to have to step up for us, and I hope that he does. So that's kind of going to bring this to a little bit of a close, guys. So I hope you have enjoyed this, of course, and yeah, so summer is going to be a difficult one for me. Lots of wheeling and dealing. Defensive strengthening again, I think, possibly is where we're going to be aiming most of our budget. So I'll see you guys soon. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.